All right. So, welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday for women visionaries in transition who basically want to achieve more in less time with less stress. I am the Change Guide for Growth, and we are jumping on for my Visionaries in Transition Facebook Live series today, where I interview the amazing and inspiring impact makers in my network to discuss the transitions that have shaped our lives and businesses over the years. So if you're joining us, please like, comment, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube to let us know that you're here. So today I am talking to Morgan, who has this company, Hustle and Play, that I'm absolutely in love with. It is such a great concept, and I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. What's your backstory? How did you get to where you are today?
Just a light question.
Yeah, I know, right?
The short answer is that I'm very purpose driven, and I'm also obsessed with organization, systems, and efficiency. And so while I was navigating my early career, I was always implementing new, time batching systems, productivity hacks, all that stuff. And when life was happening to me, and I love that, you're all about transitions, I learned how those systems really propped me up. And I didn't know that I was formulating a framework at the time, but I was. And so it all accumulated into this framework called Hustle and Play. That is a book that is part planner, part journal, part social movement to deconstruct capitalism in our everyday lives. No big deal. But it is that. It's that for me. It's that for our community. And I feel like I gave no tangible information in that, but that's my short answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're speaking my language, because those kinds of systems do prop us up in times of change. Like, that is one of my soapboxes that I jump on. Like, you need to have those support structures to provide stability for you when everything's going to shit.
Right. And now that I'm working with others in this space, I really see that. At the time so my big transition story is when I was laid off in 2015. And I think a lot of folks can resonate with the feeling of being, one day you have about 1,000 million things on your plate, and the very next day you have nothing on your plate. And, I had a few systems, of how to think about my time. And it really helped me navigate that white space. And I know that a lot of folks don't have those things. And so that white space is terrifying. And our system has conditioned us out of being okay with any kind of space at all, right? They've filled our schedules from 8 a.m. to at least 3 p.m. from K to 12, but usually 8 to 6 if you have after school activities or any sort of application.
Yeah, plus homework,
projects. We learned very young not to allow ourselves to breathe. So, I feel like I'm already on a tangent and you probably have questions.
No, I love that because that is so true. We are so conditioned to pack our days full of activities, and most of the time they're activities for other people. They're not activities for ourselves.
No,
that's a totally different story.
I don't even have the time to know what I would do for myself, and it's much easier just to focus on others and serve them, fix them, complain about them, love them. Much easier to do that than to do so.
I think we really came to a confrontation with this during the pandemic.
1,000%.
Like, all of a sudden we were left to our own devices. Like, what do we do with all of this time throughout the day if we don't fill it with going to social events, going to practices, going to other obligations that require other people.
Yep. And, it's interesting. It's very similar to childhood, if you think about it, because when we were kids, we couldn't just go to dinner we weren't going to work. We couldn't drive. We couldn't go anywhere. We were stuck at home, but we didn't think of it as being stuck at home. We would just play. We would imagine things. We would use what was in front of us. And I think those of us who saw the pandemic, who, also had the privilege to see the pandemic as an opportunity for this space. A lot of us got back to those activities, cooking, gardening, sports, outdoor activities that don't cost a lot of money and that are within our confines of home. And it really, I think, showed us who we are in our core if we were able to explore that, be bad at things, try new things again. And I think that was the beauty of especially that beginning time. I think things wore on and there are massive stressors and negatives and things that we could go down that road. But what I work with in our framework of hustle and play is really around that concept of play and how that's our healing space, that's our safe space, and that's our unique opportunity. There's gonna be sirens in a second. I live in Long Beach. Hi, everyone. But if we can find what our individual unique play is, that's our healing space that teaches us what we love and who we are, really. I mean, when you're really in a play state, like you're thriving, you're shining. And that is rare for most adults, I would say.
Yes.
So I do a lot of work with folks, just, helping them explore it. And our framework helps you prioritize it because it's important. That's how we are whole day to day.
Yeah. So you mentioned the transition back in 2015. Are there any other transitions that have shaped your journey, either in life or business? I mean, there's a ton.
Girl, I am like a triple Scorpio. I live in the darkness and transformation space. Like there's nothing.
Wow, Scorpio, that's a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, so like going all the way back, my mom died when I was 22. That was the biggest transition of my life. And I feel that transition kind of lives with me forever. When you're a woman coming to be in the world without your mom, like how that stages out is always a reminder. It's always a guide for me. And having that kind of grounded ancestral also reminder of like the shortness and the preciousness of life has been key to everything. But it was a major transition, 22, right? You don't have anything. It's just, but it taught me, it was just a very quick, like, life is short. What are you doing? You need to transition out of your, partying every single day. All that matters is that world and your friends to what are you doing with your life? If you die at 58, like she did, your life is half over, which obviously I don't think that will happen, but it could be worse than that, right? And so it kicked me into gear of focusing on finding my purpose and being really channeled in that. And for me, that meant working in public schools for a long time, running after school programs, which is interesting because it's the play space. That's the part of education where there's a lot of freedom. And I loved it. I never wanted to be a teacher, still don't want to be a teacher, love teachers, adore teachers.
We stand teachers in this house.
Yeah, like it's, the hardest job in the world, in my opinion. But after school work is not easy either. There's no infrastructure for that. It's like very on the ground, very creative, but also very taxing over time. I got laid off from that in 2015, very unexpectedly, in the middle of a school year. That never happens.
Wow.
I was working in a really small organization, and we could go into my theories about why it happened, but It was a great gift to me, and it taught me, like I said, to use the systems that I had built up at that point, because I had to survive in the after school space. It was like, you need systems or you're going to sink, because nothing is there for you. And I learned how to listen to the momentum of the universe. I learned how to use the systems that I had to listen to that, and take roads less traveled. So I had interest in starting a photography business at the time. I'd always done photography, but never conceptualized how to make money off of it. Didn't know anybody who could make money off of it.
Yeah.
And education was really beating me down. It was just, really a difficult thing, but that's where that's where my, I have a master's degree. I have a lot of experience there. That's where my network was. So I was still being pulled towards education, but I was also hitting a lot of walls. And this road for photography was filled with ease. It was like, here's a mentor, here's some free equipment to use. Clients were just easily knocking on my door. And, it wasn't enough money to make it happen, but I could like walk dogs, which was very humbling for my ego, but very nourishing for my soul. Mm-hmm. And I would just take these fluffy dogs and like hike every day to supplement my income, and listen to podcasts and like really just ground in who I was. And it led me to photography, which took me all over the world, which gave me a ton of flexibility and freedom. It taught me so many skills and, entrepreneurship. And, so I don't know how much deeper you want me to come. Like I could keep going.
I love that. Well, you answered my next question, is like, what are the lessons that you learned along the way? And you've already been talking about that, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I was using, like I said, hustle and play as a framework the whole time. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I had created this little chart that helped me categorize my time: work, play, push, and move. So I'm doing those things, and had a Google Doc that I glued pages in my little 5-star notebook, and that's how I stayed organized. And then in that time, I was doing so much education around successful people that I admired, and they all had this overlap of what they did, which was they all had a reflection practice, they all had a gratitude practice, they all had exercise routine and meditation. And so I started weaving that into my framework. So I'm using that. And I didn't know that I was using that to listen to the momentum. Photography was going very well. And then, my friends started to notice that I started to change. Like I just started to calm down a little bit. I started to feel a little more confident. I had, other like financial details, like, things financially were settling. Like I had just bought a condo a year before I got laid off. So wow. I was terrified that I was going to lose it. How am I going to sustain a condo on unemployment? Like I couldn't even afford it when I bought it. Like it was just really scary. And yet I was doing it on, so when my friends started asking about hustle, what is that notebook you have? And it's like 10 pounds, I'm lugging it around. And I was talking about it more. They started asking for it. And I was like, all right, and I don't really want another business. Like I'm tapped, And so I was like, all right, I'll do a Kickstarter. If you guys want to pay for it, I'll just make this book. And then I can stop gluing pages in the notebook. And that's like as far as I thought about it. And I did a Kickstarter. I just went on Kickstarter. I followed every direction that they gave, and it went great. And I made the book. And so it launches in January 2020. And I had simultaneously decided to sell my condo at that time. I'd had it about 5 years, not with any plan. And my plan was, and that was just a very like, I'm ready to leave the Bay Area. I don't know where I want to go. If I sell this, it buys me some freedom. My plan is, get this book off the ground, go to Thailand in March, make all my life decisions, and then happily ever after. Like that was as far as I could think.
Yeah, right.
And so I get these books out, and, they're just mostly friends trying to support me in this. And I don't really think that this is going to be anything yet, because I don't really know what it is yet. And I don't know how to advertise it properly. And I don't know if people really want it, but okay, fine. So I get the books out, go to Thailand, March 2nd, 2020.
Wow, that was right before, I think it was like March 6th that Seattle locked down.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting, but like it's spiritual to me, because at that time I had been doing Hustle and Play for years. My friends could have pressured me at any time. I could have done the Kickstarter 2 years before. Anyway, I'm in Thailand. We all know what happens that month. I'm like, I don't think this is the time to make all my life decisions. Call me crazy.
True.
But all of a sudden I was just like stormed with interest about Hustle and Play, all because everyone was handed this white space. And I was like, wow, this is crazy that, this is happening year one of this thing. And that's exactly where in my life where it was born, really. And so obviously photography was put down. Like, I thought I'd be doing photography and Hustle and Play would be happening maybe 10 years, something would happen. And so that came to the front, photography went to the back, and that's where we've been ever since. And I've worked with a lot of people, and it's comprehensive framework. It needs to be taught. I've learned so much about how much support folks need around just even bringing the thought of play into their life. And through that work, I've been able to connect my own story that was happening, kind of unconsciously. Like, I didn't have a community to talk about what was happening at the time. So I'm trying to connect this back to transitions, but I hope I am.
Yeah, I mean, the lessons learned. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. And I think one of the biggest lessons that you're talking about here is just trusting divine timing.
Yes.
And trusting, the ease with which these things just fall into place sometimes is astounding.
Yes. And following the momentum that is, and not the momentum that you want.
Yeah.
Because when we're following the rules and we are doing the thing in order, and yet every time we get to the next step, we feel beat down, or we're clenching, or we're anxious, or we're just grinding to make something happen, and it is just not easy. We need to really listen to that.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard, very hard, but that's where, we need other things in our life to help us be able to hear that and see that, and feel that actually in our bodies. But, when we ignore that and we just keep pushing, then we cannot see all the other open doors around us that are leading to an unknown for most of us, right? A path that is not defined, that is scarier, but is more aligned with our true values and our moment in life, whatever that may be. And sometimes that means making less money so that we can be in our bodies for a minute. Sometimes that means just actually staying the course and not making a major change. I think a lot of folks are very unhappy in their situations, and they're like, oh, I need a new job, I need a new city, I need a new house, right? I need a new, and it's like, okay, well, let's just take a step back and like, well, what's going right? And a lot of things are going right. So let's make tiny changes for a while before we make big changes.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm sure you see that a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's actually a method called the Kaizen Method that I've actually fallen in love with. It's a Japanese method of productivity, where it's basically you take the stupidest, simplest step that's right in front of you. Because if you look at the huge project, it overwhelms your brain, it overwhelms your body.
Very much.
So what's the stupidest, simplest step that you can start with? And then you go to the next one, and then you go to the next one, and then it's cumulative over time.
Yes. And, my brain hears that and then immediately goes to the practical, and it's like, well, how do you do that? Like, what's the how on that? Right. And I'm curious, like, what's, if I was your client and I said that to you, what would you say?
Yeah. Well, I actually use the example of my skincare routine.
Okay.
Because they always say that like you should test one ingredient at a time on your skin.
Okay.
Like it overwhelms your skin if you try too much at once. And so I spent about 10 months perfecting my skincare routine.
Nice.
Because I would just include one new ingredient each month, see how my skin responded, and then be like, all right, I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to keep this.
Great.
And so by the end of the 10 months, I had a perfectly tested, solid skincare routine, but it took me time to be like, all right, do I want to incorporate this serum? Do I want to incorporate this ingredient? And so it's just about incorporating those small changes along the way.
Your skin looks great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that. Yeah. I think that is what we are not taught, right? Like that's not our conditioning. Our conditioning is like before and after. Like, you know, you can get that online so easily. You can be like, oh, look at my skin day one and look at my skin 10 months later. And it's like, no. But that was 10 months of every single day.
Yeah.
Being very patient.
Yeah.
And that skill is hard to cultivate, especially when we are bombarded with images and messages of the opposite.
Yeah. 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 The magic pill is just a fallacy.
It is. And you know, how we tap into so that worked for you because you have obviously a passion, motivation, a care for your skin, right? And somebody else could hear that and be like, I want good skin, but I don't care at all about, you know, the work that it takes to get there. And so they might try what you just said and fall off in 2 minutes because they're just like, I don't care, you know? And it's like, how do you tap into your next right step, right?
Yes,
that's not
totally.
Somebody else's, that, you know, is not leading to some outcome that is externally defined.
Totally. Yeah, that's where that intrinsic motivation comes from.
Right. And that's hard. I think it takes time to, unless you have your own practices like already in place, which, you know, I think a lot of women in particular do. But I think a lot of us don't, and we have it channeled outside. It's our kids, it's our partner, it's our job, you know? And so that's where I always come back to the play. I'm like, well, where's the play? Like, and it's this fun exploratory thing when you let your brain kind of just go for a second and laugh and, you know, whatever play it may be. If that's like, you know, a lot of people like to knit, a lot of people like to garden. I like to play sports. You know, for me, it's sports when I'm out on the field and I'm laughing and I'm joking around. You know, it's not competitive. It's just like I'm with a bunch of strangers I don't really know, but I'm like kicking the ball. I'm good. I'm bad. I'm making mistakes. I'm hitting it hard. Like, it's when things are in that space, I'm like, I like can step outside myself and be like, this is who you really are. Like, this is Morgan thriving in her element. That she doesn't get to show up in any other way in adult life, right? Like, this is not Morgan out to dinner with friends, which is like, okay, you know, I like to do that. But like when I am running, and it took me like many years to get back on a field and rediscover that, right? And that will not be the case for many other adult women. I don't know. Like, I have a relationship to that from my childhood. And what would the world look like if all of our women were just having space in their life to do that every single day? Like, oh, no, I am going to go in the garden for 2 hours and the rest of you are going to do whatever the fuck you're going to do. And I don't care.
Right.
And the whole family system, you know, or the whole system just revolved around that. And then mom comes back out from the garden and she's like, oh, you guys, just good. Let me get a shower. Let's have a dance party on the way to the kitchen. We can cook all this food I just harvested. And, you know, or maybe the kids come out and join her, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, totally. I just love that you're talking about all of these practices that I talk about in the Healthy Mind Ladder. Like, playtime is huge, but you're also talking about time in, like that internal self-reflection and finding out that baseline self-awareness of what you like, what you don't like, what your beliefs are, all those inner sensations and feelings that we have. You're also talking about physical time, getting out there and moving your body, social time, having community to like support you. Like you're speaking my language. I love it.
Yes, we're very aligned in our work, and we should figure out how to collaborate more and let our converge our community. I mean, obviously we're doing that now in our community.
First step.
Meet each other. Yeah.
Again, we're talking about that smallest step in front of us is getting on a public platform and talking about this stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I love that you're working specifically with women in transition. I mean, obviously this is a huge time for transition.
Totally. I mean, we've all been navel gazing for the last 2.5 years. Like, that's essentially what we're doing, is like finding out what our inner belief systems are, what our preferred habits and behaviors are, and how that fits within this global wide situation we find ourselves in. And it's becoming a lot more self-reflective. And as a result, a lot of more people are being like, well, I actually didn't really like the life that I was living. So let's change it.
Yes. And I think that I'm like, I had a million thoughts where you were just saying that, but if we can like use that reflective space to get very explicit around like, what are my needs now? And what are the boundaries, excuse me. What are I went to a wedding this weekend and lost my voice. We were singing, but what are the boundaries around those needs so that I can, start to advocate for the life that I deserve, right? It's not even the life that I want. It's the life that I deserve, that we all deserve. We deserve to have a little bit of white space in our everyday. And just because we were told and taught and conditioned out of that does not mean we have to accept that going forward. And I believe that the opportunity of this time and the great resignation and the transition, are we going to go back to the office? Are we not going to go back to the office? Affords us some risk taking in these boundaries in a new way, right? If we don't ask for it, we're not getting it. So we need to figure it out. I know it's hard. We're taking some risks. We have to accept that the answer may be no, but we have to ask, right? And we can't be coming in guns blazing, rude about it. We need to, which we wouldn't, but I think in our head, I think immediately we're like, oh no, they would say no, and it's like, well, you're not going to like demand this. You're just going to ask this, especially if you're negotiating an offer, or you're negotiating a promotion, or negotiating just generally, am I staying? Like, are you courting me to stay, or am I going to look elsewhere? What do you really want? What do you really need? Do you need to be released of all scheduling so that you can just get your work done as you need to? Do you need absolutely no, I'm not going back to the office without a gas stipend right now? Totally. I work with a lot of people, like they're negotiating their offers, and I'm like, what, do you want to push your start date a little bit so you have more time off in transition before you start? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. If they want you, just see what would happen. Could you take 2 months off in between your start date? There's so many ways to imagine a life that you never thought possible, and push on that, like get to the edge of what you think could ever happen and just try. Mm-hmm. And I know I keep saying this, but I know it's not easy. This isn't easy work, but this is our lives we're talking about. We don't have the luxury of just being like, okay, I'm so lucky to get this job and I'm just going to put my head down and do whatever they say. It's like, no. So.
Yeah. I love it. This is super powerful stuff that we're talking about here. I mean, this is exactly why I created this series, because I had such great conversations in one-to-one meetings with women like you. And I was like, man, I need to broadcast this on a more public platform. And Audience, I always encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and insights and stories with us as well. We'd love to know how these kinds of transitions have impacted you in your own lives too. So anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I guess just, if anyone wants to chat about a framework that can help have this spaciousness in your everyday life, I'm available. Hustle and Play on every platform. I'm most active on Instagram, so at Hustle and Play.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Yeah, and as always, I'm always looking for more guests. This series is actually booked out to September at the moment.
Wow.
So if you're interested in booking in October, hit me up. I'll send you the link. I can't wait to chat with you all. In the meantime, please comment, like, subscribe, and share. You can check me out at linktree/liminal clarity or find Morgan on all of the platforms that she just mentioned. And then until next time, please remember that your authentic self is extraordinary, it is wonderful, and you owe it to yourself to create the elevated life that you know you are capable of. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.